Welcome back to The Working Lunch. Happy to have you here on this Thursday. We are in the leather chairs, which means it's the interview portion of the show. And I am happy to be joined by longtime educator, former Princeton City Schools superintendent, currently consultant, motivational speaker. I think you're wearing a lot of different hats. Tom Burton is our guest on the show. Tom, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks, Jack. Pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you. You're a busy guy, but before you got into what you're doing now in terms of how busy you are, you were in education for what, like 3 decades?
Thanks, Jack, for pointing out how old I am. Yes, so everybody here, I'm really old. Thanks, Jack. So 36 years. I retired 3 years ago from Princeton. I was superintendent there for like 5.5 years. Before that, I was associate superintendent there.
Yeah.
Love education. Love it, love it, love it. It is the great equalizer for sure.
And you spent, like, I think the bulk, or at least what you called the sort of pinnacle of your career with Princeton City Schools. But before that, you were in Northeast Ohio. You know Ohio education.
Well, I like to think so, but I'm surrounded by great people. That's why I think that education is great equalizer, because you have so many wonderful people in education. But yeah, I spent 28 years in and around Cleveland, which my friends up in Cleveland never thought I was going to leave, nor did I.
Yeah.
And this great opportunity came to work at the amazing Princeton City Schools, and so we took it and never looked back. 3 beautiful kids, all graduated from Princeton, and love Princeton. Incredible opportunity to be superintendent there.
Yeah, you and I, similarly, I grew up in Northeast Ohio and moved to Cincinnati about 20 years ago, and I've always loved it here too. I didn't ever imagine thinking I was going to leave home, but when you do, you do. And this is a heck of a town to be in. Real quick, before we get into your current activities as far as the WeEmpower group and High Aims, because you are a Ohio educator, you've got experience in this stuff. We just talked a lot about vouchers and this current legal fight in that system. Do you have a take on I don't know, the way you think that case should play out, pros and cons, anything like that?
Sure. Well, the reality is it's already been ruled unconstitutional. It already has 4 times over. It is beholden upon the legislature to figure out a solution. I have to say that I think the last couple of years people have worked much harder than what they had in the past. And in fact, the voucher system used to be, Jack, it was crazy to think about. So at Princeton received less than $1,000 per student from the state of Ohio. So who pays that, bulk of that? All of our beautiful residents, right? So when you think about that, if somebody were to leave Princeton in the foundation format, they would take the guarantee away from Princeton.
Right, that's money coming out of the school's budget.
Yeah, even though we'd get $1,000 per kid, if that student would choose to leave, which is their right, but if they would choose to leave and they would qualify for a voucher like they used to, they would take $6,500 away from the foundation. So 6.5 students, state funding would be gone. And I worked with Senator Blessing and many other people, and Senator Blessing, I think, is doing a bang-up job. He's working super hard. Big fan of making sure we get things right. But the reality is, I mean, it's state dollars.
Right.
And like you said, I thought that was a great point you made, private schools don't have to take each student. And when you think about it, and as Princeton, we welcome everybody. We're like the Statue of Liberty, right? But the reality is we would have some kids that would come in because of the great special education services we'd have. And we would meet their needs, meet students where they are. That's what it's supposed to be like.
Right, it's school.
Yes,
we want all these kids to succeed.
100%. Now, whether that costs $12,000 or $100,000, it's beholden upon us in public education. And that's what so few people really, truly understand.
Yeah.
That to educate each child is a major investment.
Right.
And we're going to welcome everybody, regardless of ability, regardless of race or gender. Like I said, we're the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
And I always love that about public education, that we're going to welcome everybody at the schoolhouse doors.
So you now are a guy who, again, had all this time working in education, school leadership. You won a number of awards in terms of being an educator. I don't need to embarrass you on that, but now you are the executive director of an organization called High Aims, and you're the founder of a group called WeEmpower. Similar sort of organizations, I think. What does that involve you doing now?
Yes. Can I back up just for one second?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, thanks. So any award that, like I ever got was about we. It's not about
I get you.
me, it's about we. There's so many people, and so I used to run away from this conversation, but I think, unfortunately, what I would do is I would slight people that were there along with me. So there were so many incredible people, so whatever I received, it really was about other people. And if I was at a banquet or something like that, I always talked about my family.
Sure.
I talked about my colleagues and everybody. So it's about a team. And so when you think of a team, how about this for a segue?
Okay.
So High Ames has been around since the 90s, and it was founded with really the intention of bringing innovation and creativity around Cincinnati. So it's membership based, and right now we have over 20 school district members, and we get together, we do a variety of great things. So we have middle school, high school, elementary principal and assistant principal cohorts, counseling cohorts, special education cohorts, instructional leadership cohorts, and superintendent cohorts. So we get together a variety of times throughout the course of the year. We offer specific programming, like we have a high school student leadership program in the fall. Getting ready tomorrow, Jack. If you're around Indian Hill, feel free to stop by. You're going to see about 100 incredible middle-level students. They're going to be all over the place. It's going to be amazing.
Okay.
And we help kids understand really who they are, why they are, and where they are, and kind of that juxtaposition of what we need to do to help kids navigate this difficult time they call the young adolescent.
Sure. So you're coordinating with different schools that are members of this program and working on different programs and like developing best practices as a cooperational thing.
Yes, yes. So tomorrow there'll be 11 schools that will participate, and they don't you pay one time and we take care of everything. So we have the 2 student leadership retreats, if you will, summits. We actually have a administrative leadership retreat in December. And then we have a middle-level symposium. We try to offer programming to, again, help educators meet students where they are.
Yeah. So now how does that differ from then the founding of WeEmpower?
Yeah, so you know what, Jack? I know when we talked a little bit off air, we were talking a little bit about the two. So High Ames is separate, totally separate.
Okay.
Where the WeEmpower LLC is really kind of, and I've been blessed to, been a lot of states. Went to Greece last year, spoke to a semi-pro or professional basketball team, I guess, visited a couple schools. But really the coaching and the consulting, so helping administrators kind of navigate their job and navigate the complexities of education. I also do like leadership retreats, variety of services, keynote speaking, which is super fun. But the biggest impact that I like to have is with the students. So I said yesterday, actually, there was something I posted on Instagram, which was really about, as long as I've been in education, it's always been about one thing. It's always been about students.
About the kids, yeah.
No matter what. And so that has been the driving force. And like, I talked to kids the other day, I'm like, look, when you have struggle, you can give in, you can give up, or you can give it your all. So what are you going to do? So let me repeat it for the camera. You give in, you can give up, or you can give it your all. So what you choose to do every day, it's all about choices.
Was it difficult for you to make that pivot from being in a leadership position in like capital E education to now in being involved in both of these organizations?
Yeah, so not so much High Ames, because before I was involved in leadership with High Ames when we had an executive director, and she was doing great work, and she decided to go back into the superintendency, and so the board then had asked me to kind of keep things going. So when I was superintendent, I just volunteered and did it with High Ames. So that transition was relatively easy. The other transition to the CEO, the founder of WeEmpower LLC,
you started this business,
was crazy. I made a billion mistakes. I talk about them openly when I'm working with people.
What was for the purposes of talking about this business that you started, and in terms of letting people know what to expect the unexpected, what would you say is one of the biggest mistakes you made when you were starting this LLC?
Wow. There's so many of them, it's going to be hard to choose just one.
But yet here you are.
I would say that dealing with the details. So one of the things I did early on is I was trained with this great a program called the 6 Types of Working Genius, which is the best, my opinion, the best leadership training anybody could go through, because it's about productivity and efficiency.
Is this like an Enneagram thing where you understand how people communicate?
Yes, sort of, but the difference is the focus is about productivity and efficiency.
Okay.
So for instance, my working geniuses, you're identified with 2 of them, you take a survey assessment, invention and discernment. So I love to create. When I'm in that space, Jack, I'm the happiest person in the world.
Yeah.
You call me and you're like, hey Tom, what do you think about this graphic? I don't mind spending time there, because it gives me joy, energy, and fulfillment. And then I like to think I can discern. So I love that. So I'm like, I want to do that if I were you. So, but my frustration is what led me to this conversation with you. So my frustration is tenacity and wonder. So I probably would have been better to think a little bit more, ask some more questions about what all is entailed with LLC, how do I navigate it, who should I encourage to help me along the way, and the tenacity with record keeping and all that stuff. And like I said, Liz, I had a lot of help and support, and I needed it. I needed it when I was superintendent and associate superintendent, principal, and so forth.
Yeah.
And that actually, the people that were always in my life helped me in supporting roles. They loved asking questions, and they loved the tenacity of getting things done. And I do too, but if you stay there too long, Jack, it becomes a frustration.
Yeah, well, and when you're talking about being an entrepreneur and, you know, needing to solve problems to try to get to a certain goal, and having people around you recognizing different skill sets and recognizing different strengths that other people have, and recognizing what your own are, and you know, pros and minuses, pros and cons within yourself, and finding different gears that fit all into that clock to make it all tick.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because when I first started, I felt like, so I retired in November, so I had a runway before I announced my retirement in November, and then until I officially retired July 31st of 2023. So when I did, about 3 weeks before that, I had about 40 dates that I had that I knew I was going to do something. In those 3 weeks, in the evening or really early in the morning, I would get phone calls, and I was always pushing everybody to August 1st.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, and I don't think I was smart enough to pull on people that had experience. So when I became superintendent, there was so much wisdom with people that had been through it before. Yeah. And I realized that early on. It was such a big mistake. I wanted to try to fill that void with people. So that was amazing. So I worked every day till December 12th and really forced myself to take a little bit of time. So I've been really busy trying to amplify the voice of other people, and was able to do a lot of things. But I felt like I was going to fly all over the place, do a keynote, get jazzed up, get people all fired up, and then I would turn and leave. But I found out early on that did not fill my cup at all. So I do a lot of leadership work. So like a typical, if you will, a contract for me would be 6 different events in a school district, where some would be administrative leadership, workshops and so forth, and helping them through the way, and then maybe even the next day or even that same day, student leadership. So it's great, and I always love ending with student leadership.
Yeah. Is it difficult to fight the cynicism of adolescence where, you know, I mean, you're trying to say things to get kids fired up about their lives and their education, and, you know, there can be such a pushback, especially if you're dealing with teenagers, right?
Yeah, you know, I have not found that much with students in my entire career. So when I was in Cleveland at Cuyahoga Heights, early on, I started this leadership council. And I remember sitting in there, and some of you may know, and I remember her sitting on the floor, and we were having pizza, but Marissa Contepelli questioned things.
Of first word fame, Marissa Contepelli was one of your students.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a real name?
Former student, Marissa Contepelli, yeah. And she doesn't even know this story. I never shared it with her. But I remember her pushing and actually talking about this leadership block, and that we did a little bit differently. And you know, we have to open up our minds to listen to the students. We have to do that, and we have to do it more. A lot of times in classes, Jack, you know what we do? We say, hey, does anybody have any questions? And it is literally the last thing we do, and we give it so little time.
Yeah, right.
So then the bell rings, the kids leave, And so I always like to say throughout the course of the class, we need to ask these high fidelity questions that allow students to be able to kind of process the information they just received, they were just working on, and then allow them to be able to kind of question that. And that's what Marissa did that day.
Yeah.
And people have done that throughout my career, and I'm very blessed to have people that they understand the value of dissenting, which is beautiful in a highly evolved organization.
Well, I think it also says a lot about the way that you sort of approach this whole thing, in that you've got memories of one of the hundreds, thousands of kids that you have interacted with over the years, a memory of a very specific interaction from years ago that then leads to a story that you're telling later. I think that sort of detail-oriented leadership, I think, says a lot about the way you're running things now. We are going to take a little bit of a break. We'll be back with more with Tom Burton. Got a lot more questions. You're watching The Working Lunch here on The Crown.
Yeah.
Welcome back to The Working Lunch. I am continue to be joined by Tom Burton, the founder of WeEmpower LLC. He's also the executive director of High Aim. AIM or AIMS, sorry.
AIMS.
High aims. We got multiple aims that we're going for. Going to schools and talking to kids about empowerment and leadership and motivating them to step up in their lives. And you're such a detail-oriented guy, even though you were talking about the frustrations of tenacity of starting your own business. I'm really impressed at the breadth of what you want to share with people. You were the superintendent of Princeton City Schools for quite a while. That's the district which you retired from. Was there ever a temptation just to retire?
No, not really.
Like actually retire?
No, I actually, it's funny. I get asked that all the time. And my response is always the same. There's a hesitation, there's reluctancy to answer because I wouldn't know what else to do. I've had these short segments where I wouldn't have anything to do, and I felt like I had no impact.
Yeah.
And in fact, people, I've gotten a lot of advice from wonderful people that say, Tom, stick to one or two things and just do those things. That's just not who I am.
Yeah, it may work for them, but not for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that to me is like, I think one of the things that I really pride myself on is if I'm going to do a keynote, yeah, I have keynotes that are locked and loaded, but I want to know about your district. I want to know about your company because it's bigger than just education. I work with companies, small businesses, ed tech startups, large companies as well. But I say the same thing all the time. What is it that what's your vision? What's your mission? And I try to build around that. Now, of course, I have some things that I always do. Sure. But the reality is you try to build it with them. And actually a great example is I was doing work and actually next week, 2 weeks, is my last day in Ypsilanti Community Schools right outside of Detroit.
Up in Michigan.
Yes, great work being done up there by the administrators. So 6 times I met with them, 6 times with the students. But they started this year with Fans First, which is about the Savannah Bananas. Okay, sure. Jesse Cole. And so the superintendent said, Tom, can you blend that into the keynote? Yeah, let's go. Yeah. You blend it in and create this graphic, Ypsilanti First. And I see those cards actually all over the district, which is amazing. So being able to do that, it kind of keeps me going, but it's the keynote, and then it's like administrative retreat, and that's, working with students, and that's, well, geez, I'm going to work with a company, and I'm going to do some strategic visioning. And I have to do that to keep my brain going because I'm a mess, Jack.
And based on that and the idea that you are a detail-oriented guy, how much did you find yourself needing to tweak your messaging after all the years that you've spent with young people and on the educational front? And even if you are talking about motivating young people to be leaders versus then pivoting into talking to adults who are either running a small business or a big business and communicating with them. How did your messaging change? What was the learning process for you on that?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Not that all your questions aren't great, but that was probably the best question you asked, Jack.
So
of all
far.
of them, that was number one.
So far.
Yes, so far. You got more coming. Great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer that like this. So at Princeton, when I became superintendent, again, I was in the district, but when we started looking at different types of data, when we looked at student growth, we were 847 out of 854 in the state of Ohio in public schools and charters in the state. Yeah. That's horrific.
Yeah.
And while there's great work being done, and we had these other numbers, we forced ourselves to really look differently at that. Within 4 years, we were number 11 in the state. Met the academic achievement indicator the next year, and people were saying, how did you do that in this beautifully diverse district where, quite frankly, a lot of people would not give us, they were not expecting what the results we got. And so, Jack, I look at that and I think of it like this, that this idiom that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
This is in your TED Talk.
It is.
Yeah.
Right? So when you think of that, if you believe that, then 8-9 million kids that are currently in poverty would always be in poverty in the United States. But we know that's not true because sometimes the apple bounces.
Yeah.
So belief, opportunity, understanding, commitment. Sorry, that's funny. This is great. I'm an educator.
Okay.
Belief, opportunity, understanding, nuance, commitment, expectation.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the order.
That's for bounce. So I tailor that specifically to the different audiences. So when I talk to teachers and I talk about it's not about belief, it's really about behavior. So I know people say it starts with belief, but show me how people behave, I'll show you what they believe in. And when you look at opportunities, an opportunity is putting courses in a catalog. Say, there's your opportunities. Creating equitable opportunities is different. So really kind of digging down deep into those. So when I work with students tomorrow, I'll talk about that a little bit, but there'll be behavior that will be in there.
Right.
Say what you mean what you say. It's like my 4th slide. And the kids talk about it. And so when I tailor it around the messaging of the school district or the organization or the theme of what it is that we're trying to do. But essentially, that is a big component of it. The belief, the behavior that we can, should, and need to do more. But without that will do more, it's not actionable.
I was curious about how, again, when you're talking about tailoring the message and when you're specifically doing these talks at schools and encouraging these kids, how much of it is also, like when you would watch The Muppet Show back in the day, and there'd be jokes in there for the kids, but there's also a lot of stuff for the grown-ups to appreciate also. How much of the messaging, when you're talking directly to kids, is also for the educators and the administrators to also hear and try and take note of?
Not your best question. I like the other question
that's
more.
fine.
But that's good. The top two right there.
We're working.
Yeah. No, I love that, Jack, because there will be adults in the room tomorrow.
Right.
And you know who's going to screw up tomorrow? The adults. And they're awesome. They'll be great adults. But I'll say, leave the students alone.
Yeah.
Let them struggle. Those struggle moments are so important for all of us. So there will be messages for adults. And when I'll literally specifically call out the adults in the room and say, hey, quick little, for all the chaperones here, check this out. And again, those kind of teachable and learnable moments, if you will, that happen during any event, that's really important. So I do that. I started that way when in Chicago on Monday, the superintendent did a great job recognizing each school.
Yeah.
All the kids from those schools, she goes, stand up. Nobody clapped. They stood up. My first words I said, that was terrible. This is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It just said it just like that.
Right.
And I looked at the chaperones. I said, how about that, chaperones? How about that, superintendents?
Right.
What a great way to start to get people motivated. But let me tell you what's never going to happen again. We will never not recognize the value of who people are. So then I called the first school. They stood up. Everybody went nuts.
Yeah.
And then we went through. And it was just this teachable, learnable moment about how we do it. It's different. Like I could have given every excuse in the world.
Well, and you also
for
could
the
have
kids.
you also could have just stuck to the script and not been actively paying attention to the system, to the situation that was unfolding in front of you, and recognizing that in the moment and being able to pivot. Good for you.
Yeah, being able to pivot, I think is important. Sometimes I go to Missouri, but I always end up in Cincinnati.
Right on.
I may have a story or two, but I'm going to come back to Cincinnati.
You also got so much experience on the educational side of things and figuring out how. I'm a big believer in the idea that you can have the most important information in the world, but if you don't say it in a way that actually lands with somebody, what's the point? You got to be able to say things and communicate in a way where it actually lands with someone. And, you know, again, in your experience of being the superintendent at Princeton and trying to figure out how to communicate with kids and meet them where they're at, obviously sports plays a big role in that, I would think, and finding moments in terms of sports and the idea of using sports as a teachable moment in life has got to be one of the avenues for you.
Oh, no question. And just a little shout out, boys basketball team, Princeton won states this year.
Right on.
Averaged more than 20-point victory. And I used to coach basketball at Cleveland Heights. We went down to states finals 3 years in a row. And the 5th year, I had left the district at that point, they won it. I've never seen a bigger dominant performance, and I'm super proud of that. And my last year, the girls won the states. But through that process of winning the state, both coaches, if they were here right now, would talk about challenges, would talk about struggles, would talk about those big moments. So I have received a phone call from a superintendent that said, Tom, I have a major problem. Did you see the national news? That's never what I want to hear.
No, that's a terrible way to start the conversation.
Terrible way.
My stomach's upset right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, and there were some awful things that were said by a coach.
Getting ready for a game.
Actually,
in the run-up to a game.
In the game. So much so that the other team said, if this happens one more time, we're walking off.
Okay.
So then I think calmer heads prevailed and stopped saying what he was saying, and the reality is, felt like everything was going to be okay. But then it goes viral, if you will.
Sure.
And the reality is the superintendent called me and said, Tom, can you come in and work with our students?
Students on the side where the issue was, or
where
on the receiving end?
Was.
Okay.
Yes, and we had this great conversation. One of the things I said is that, look, the kids know right and wrong. They know that. So we need to unpack, we need to unlearn, we need to develop, and we need to appreciate the value of each person. And it was amazing. So I'm going back for my 4th year in the same school to work with a different group of students, and created this program called Bigger Than the Game.
Okay.
Because it's much bigger than any one game. It's the values we learn actually playing the game. It's the failures that we have.
Yeah.
It's when I was trying to, play basketball at a high level, and all these failures that I had, what I learned through failed dreams, and this is what we talk to students about, and adults, is the value of hard work, of dedication, determination. One of the things I will say, people could say a lot of different things about me, and they're probably true. I'm certainly, I work hard. I don't think anybody would say that I don't work super hard. There's some other things they could probably be critical of, and probably are, and I'm sure they are. But the reality is, learning that work ethic was critical for me. We try to instill that with not only our 3 children, but also with the students that are in front of me, even now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
Tom,
we will.
I could talk to you all day. I think listen, there's clearly a ton of value in what he's bringing to the table with messaging, but we're out of time.
Hey, that's
we
got to
go.
Okay.
Stick around. You are watching The Working Lunch. Tom Burton is my guest. WeEmpower LLC. Check it out. If you're looking to,
yes.
There we go. We'll be back.